that camera working? Yes, thank God. I just want to start by thanking you for just waiting for that delay. That just
Please.
I just took about an hour to figure out my camera situation, which I did do correctly last night. And I think
This is a lot to figure out.
this is a lot for one person.
This is a lot for one person to do. Oh my God. But you did it.
I did it. I mean, it's not done yet. It looks like I'm talking louder than you, which I can see from
On the waveforms.
This is a lot. Like this is a lot.
Should we start off with a prayer?
So I'm going to introduce you now.
Okay.
Welcome to the very first In My 30s podcast. Yeah. This is where the song's going to play.
Okay.
Just like a little clip of the song.
In my 30s.
My first guest is one of my very best friends and an actress, singer, songwriter, producer, and co-founder of production company As If Productions. This is Sarah Zanotti.
Aw, thanks, Beeb. I'm very excited to be here. Like, I'm
really
excited. To do
excited.
this.
I'm excited too.
Mainly because I just really like hanging out.
Our chats. Because when we get going, we
really roll.
I don't even need these.
Throw them. Eat them.
I don't know what I'm doing. I just want to, this is my first go.
I never do. I never know what I'm doing.
And I'm sort of like thinking about, is the camera on? Yes, we have 3 cameras. We have audio going. It's a lot. Okay. So I instructed Sarah to please dress in her finest grandpa business casual, which is my preferred aesthetic.
Yeah.
She
I didn't
do it.
I didn't. But I did wear loafers. That's my one grandpa item.
Oh my God, and your socks are amazing.
Yes. So I am
Okay.
a little bit grandpa.
Yeah.
The thing is that I feel like I embody grandpa energy.
Okay.
And so if I wear a little slinky top, I'm still a grandpa.
Right. I'm really into athleisure because it's just like one less thing to think about.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know where the grandpa business casual thing started, but that's something that we created for just wearing athleisure.
What I feel safest in, and this is going to be, I don't want to unpack this right now, but I feel the most safe in like somebody's dad's sweatshirt from college that maybe was like in a box in an attic somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I wish you had done that today. I need my mug.
Yeah.
I need my coffee.
Get a beverage.
It's like an emotional support thing, like having your
it.
beverage, you know? So all my furniture is white.
Yes. Well, I'm a white.
I know. And I actually have never sat on this couch without protection. Because
yeah. Totally.
I'm so
Better to
weird.
be safe.
I just like normally, like even anyone that comes over, I'm like, you have to sit on a blanket.
Can I tell you what? I'll tell you what.
Okay.
I have this pair of jeans.
Yeah.
They're from Kylie Jenner's brand Kai, which I actually really
You got
like.
me into Chloe's brand.
Did I?
Or Good American.
Apparently, I'm just on the
did.
Kardashian train. But Kylie Jenner's brand Kai, and she has the coolest jeans. I'm not wearing them today, but there's this dark, she has this like dark jean, like low rise, whatever. But the blue on it transfers to things.
Oh, no.
And I love them so much. I've tried washing them. They still transfer. And I was like, these pants are really cool. I'll wear them on the podcast. And then I was like, I can't. Because
You knew I had white furniture.
Yeah, I knew it.
How thoughtful of you.
I know.
Wow.
I mean...
Well, we're here and we're not transferring color onto the white furniture.
No.
Anyway,
Yeah.
let me get back to the note cards here. Sarah just released 2 singles recently. And she also is starring in the Lifetime movie
Yes.
Murder in Nashville, which
Yes.
you can now see.
Yeah, I think it's now it's on Hulu and Amazon, or if you have the Lifetime, streaming subscription.
Like regular television.
Yeah.
Which
No, but like the Lifetime, if you have like an Apple TV or streaming or whatever, you know
Oh,
how
okay.
there's all the apps,
Yeah.
Hulu, Netflix, whatever, if you have Lifetime.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
have
it's on there,
regular TV, so I watched it on Hulu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like cable, I guess.
Yeah, with
I
commercials.
sound like Gen Z right now.
No.
I'm like, what is cable? But
I've never been on network television before. And I also haven't watched network TV in so long. So when I was watching it for, the premiere of it, I forgot about commercials. I mean, we see ads all the time.
Yeah.
But it was so funny because there was this like really dramatic scene, right?
Yeah.
Like I think it was like right after I had just gotten into like a fight.
Yeah.
I'm like fighting for my life. And then all of a sudden it cuts to two women in this commercial with their hands on their hips going, I have a yeast infection. And I was like, whoa.
Wait, where did you watch it?
On cable.
On cable.
Yeah, or like just the live like
I think I kept getting a specific commercial too. Just like one commercial kept looping. Yeah.
Well, they really hit home with the yeast infection commercial during my premiere.
That has no reflection on you whatsoever.
No yeast? Who is she? I don't know.
So you were amazing in it. Like you really were. And obviously that's no surprise. When I was watching it, I was like, I'm watching Hulu and you are on my screen and you're the star. And it was amazing. It was so good. And it's funny because when we were living together, we started off as friends, roommates.
Yeah.
Roommates for like 5 years.
We've lived together 2 different times.
Yeah. Maybe 5 or 6 years. I don't even know.
Something. I think 2011 or 2012, somewhere in there, like right after Berkeley. Because we both went to Berkeley College of Music.
We both went to Berkeley.
But we didn't know each other there.
No, I think I was a year older than you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And we lived together for like a year. And then I ended up moving to LA.
Yes.
You hopped around a few places here.
Yeah.
And then when I got back, I moved in with Natalie. Then the 3 of us moved into the place down the street.
Crazy.
I know.
We had some good times.
This was my favorite thing about you as a roommate.
Oh, Jesus.
I think I've told you this before.
Oh, God. Oh.
You know. Beeb is not wasteful.
No, I don't waste
We call
anything.
each other Beeb.
Yeah.
We don't know where it started.
Yeah.
Or why. But Beeb is not a wasteful girl.
No.
And she would go to Starbucks and she would drink all but a sip of her cup. And you would think most of that last sip is backwash. Like it's not, we've really drank what's important in the cup. But she was like, there's still this much liquid left. And I think maybe I'll want it later.
Yeah.
And so she'd put it in the fridge. But then by the end of the week, we would have like 15 cups with a sip left in each of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, here she is. I kind of loved it.
I am like that with so much even now. Like my dad, I was in Baltimore and my dad was like making broccoli or something. Yeah. And he just like threw out half the broccoli. And I was like, you must make a ton of money to just be throwing away fresh produce.
All this broccoli.
I was like, how can you just be so wasteful? I can't waste anything. It's awful. It's kind of bad. It's embarrassing.
Maybe like you carry some of the generational trauma from the Depression.
I do. No, I'm very like, I pinch my pennies for sure. Except when I buy like.
Very grandpa of you.
I know. I'm thrifty, but I'm not. I mean, it's weird. I spend money on like, I'll spend like thousands of dollars on like a new song coming out, but like I don't have like a bed frame. You know what I mean?
I can be a little stingy.
Well, I think it's just, I don't know.
The things that I decide to spend money on are probably not smart.
Like $8 lattes.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But then when it comes down to like, getting a better appliance or something like that, I'm like, I don't know, that one's $20 more. I know it's gonna last me a lifetime.
That's
but
how I am.
I don't think I can do it right now.
Yeah.
Or like a protection plan on something. You buy something new.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're like,
No,
do you
I
wanna
never
try
do it.
The protection thing, and I'm like, I'll risk it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna head over to Starbucks and get some egg bites.
Yeah. But actually, this financial coach I follow, he says it's not about the lattes. It's not about do your thing, enjoy your little treat. And I'm like, F it. I'm getting the coffee.
I think we should make a sweatshirt that says it's not about the lattes.
It's not about the lattes.
It's not.
It's not. Anyway, thank God for these note cards because I don't know. We would just be like.
We're somewhere else.
Yeah, okay. So I want to talk about your acting, how you started acting, and specifically how you got this role because I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with how long you've been acting?
Okay. Well, I did like acting, musical theater all growing up, regional musical theater. I did some school plays. I think the first play I ever did was like in elementary school. It was in a production called Susie and the Socks That Stuck.
Okay.
I had one line. I remember my one line was like a funny line, and the audience laughed, and that was like, whoa. That was the first time I remember acting.
Yeah.
But I was always like a super like animated kid.
Yeah.
And
probably and you were kind of like the one in your family. Like there wasn't really anyone else.
Yeah, no one else does it. Like there's not no one's on stage. Yeah. No one else in my family is on stage. But yeah, so I started doing that and just did a lot of musical theater. Professional theater too. I remember I paid for my first car with money that I made just doing professional theater from the time I was a kid. But then when I went to college, I decided I wanted to do music. I think I always thought of acting or like theater as a way that I could sing because I really knew that I liked singing when I was a kid. Yeah. And so I decided I wanted to go to college for music, and acting just fell to the wayside. And then moved here to Nashville straight after Berkeley. Okay. And then I ended up meeting Trina, who love her. She's been a mentor in so many ways and a good friend of mine. But when she met me, I remember her being like, "Man, you're an actress." Yeah. And she just said it at like a dinner that I had basically just met her, and I started crying because it was like in my soul and my heart of hearts. I was like, I really am an actress. Yeah. And I mean, I've always
as your roommate, former roommate, like you're performing all day. That sounds like weird, but even if you're just in the kitchen, like telling a story, you were doing your thing.
I think before I like started making, like when I didn't have an avenue or a capacity to act, it's like that kind of bled over into life. I was finding ways to kind of perform.
Yeah, it's so natural to you and in your daily life is what I'm trying to say.
No, it's true. But I mean, when I'm driving in the car, I'll start like making up a monologue. I pretend I'm in a scene. I would go on like walks and I like pretend I'm in something.
Yeah. And you're always entertaining people around you. It's just who you are, I think. You're just always getting a laugh. It's just in you. It's like innate.
Yeah, I think in some ways it was something that I used for a really long time to kind of like not be vulnerable and to hide in certain ways, because I could kind of go into any room in any situation instead of allowing it to just be what it was. Right. I kind of took it as my job to make people happy, make people laugh. It was always a gift to me. I'm finding ways to use that gift that are actually really meaningful now. But there were times that I used that kind of performance side of my personality to hide and to, I don't know, kind of like manipulate the atmosphere. All this is to get back to your question. So I kind of like let acting drop. She kind of said that comment. I started crying and I was like, maybe I should move to LA and I can pursue both music and acting. Right. And I moved out to LA and joined this acting studio out there. That's where I met, bunch of Hope, all of those
I saw
people.
You perform.
Yeah, I was like immediately cast in this like comedy workshop at the acting studio that I went to. And then from that got a manager. When I was in LA, and in general in my 20s, I had such low self-esteem. And Berkeley kind of gave me, it just exacerbated some insecurities, especially with music, not necessarily with acting, but I developed like really bad stage fright at Berkeley.
So that's really bad. That's interesting because like we both went to Berkeley. It was my dream school. Yeah. I didn't get in the first time, like fought to get in, like really had to try. Yeah. Then I get in and I had similar feelings of like, oh, I'm thinking about what I'm doing now because I was learning so much. And I would not trade my Berkeley days. Like, I loved it. It was a struggle, though. you were the big fish wherever you're from, and then you're in this environment, a lot like Nashville, where everyone's good.
Yep.
And then you start to just overthink a lot. You have to like undo that when you get out.
And I think also, you know, when you go to school for music or anything entertainment related, there's only so much that technical skill can get you. But I think the wall that I started hitting was that I actually really didn't know what I wanted to say. And like the actual part of being an artist. What do I want to write about? Who am I? And I really didn't know. I could perform if you told me what to do and what to say. What are the rules? I can perfect them and I'll get up on stage and do that. But when you're surrounded by a bunch of artists at a school of these people who maybe do know how to write from their core and their gut, my need to be perfect started crumbling really quickly. I didn't have a really strong foundation of there's a reason why I do this. Everything was very frail and felt very like, you know, if people thought I did a good job, then I'm okay. And if people didn't think I did a good job, then I'm not okay. I remember this one kid in one of my songwriting classes. I, you know, played my song for the class and he raised his hand. I kid you not. And he said, "Really?" He was like, "Really?
Oh my God."
He said, "That's what you want to say?"
This is so crazy because I'm hearing things I've never heard from you.
Yeah. And I was like,
I've never heard that story.
I was terrified. Also, I had my boyfriend, my long distance boyfriend, visiting me for the weekend. He's like sitting in the class. I was outside of my body.
Do I know this
so
person
incredibly
who said this?
Embarrassed. I don't know.
I
don't know if he did. Maybe,
we're not gonna shout him out,
maybe because he was like a little bit of a Berkeley celebrity.
Berkeley celebrity. Never heard that.
I don't know. I just made that up. No.
My God.
These things, they just come to me.
It's the Lord.
I'm the faucet.
Speaking through
I'm
you.
the faucet, not the water.
Oh my God. Okay, so crazy.
Yeah,
that would like hurt anyone.
That was the self-esteem stuff.
That's pretty freaking brutal. That's
wa-
not even
it
self-esteem.
was.
That's just like, wow, that's mean.
But I didn't know at the time why I was so terrified, but I think standing on a stage, and then I moved back to Nashville and I'm doing these writers rounds and I was like completely dissociated. I couldn't feel anything because the idea of looking people in the eyes and singing a song that is supposed to be coming from me was like vulnerability that I was not prepared for because I really truly didn't have a sense of self. I really only had a sense of performance.
Don't you feel like sometimes now though, because I feel like you have moments where and I do too, it's like where you just know what you want to say because you're either going through something I think we get these little moments of being sure. That's what I'm realizing. It's like, damn, I can't believe I wrote that. Like today I have nothing. Like I don't even know if the sky is blue today. Like I'm not sure about anything or I have a lot of doubt. Like do you feel like you would get moments or was it like after 5 years of being in Nashville then you started to feel more comfortable or like when did that shift?
I think I did probably have moments like that growing up where I felt sure of something or when I wasn't like in my way. But I think for the most part, up until a few years ago, I lived pretty chronically disconnected from internal world. You know, for a myriad of different reasons. As a kid, certain feelings I thought made me bad. Yeah. Like not just were bad to feel, made me bad. Yeah. Like if I was angry, I was bad. Yeah. If I was sad, I was bad. And so
like you're not supposed to feel sad. I remember you talking about that.
And so I think because feelings are so natural to being a human, I think I just kind of formed this belief of like, I cannot be trusted. Like if this is what naturally comes from me, then I assumed my nature was bad. Yeah. And so therefore I was constantly trying to earn my goodness. Yeah. Not just from other people, but like from God, which as you know, like turned into OCD.
Yeah.
Eating disorder. I was just trying to find love, find acceptance, and find security anywhere outside of here. So I actually, in a weird way, I think it's why I'm gifted as an actress, because I became so hyper vigilant and aware of how other people were feeling about me, of how other people were feeling in general, because then I could lift their spirits, or I could do my, quote unquote, do my job. But I became really aware of the emotional circuit in the room.
And if you can't honor your emotions, no matter what they are, then that makes it really hard to write a song, because you're supposed to like skirt around that. And so you dove into acting. But
in LA, then I found with acting, like I went to an acting class, and I had this one scene where I had to like make out with a guy, or like it was like there was like a kiss, or it was a romantic scene. I started freaking out in the middle of the scene in front of the class, and I started crying, and I left.
Oh my gosh.
Because I was so
like access
scared.
That vulnerability.
Yeah, again, I was really good at the performative, like like comedy, all of that stuff, because there was a level of cover that I was able to maintain. And it was so in the pocket for me. Like you said, I'd been doing it my whole life, in every single moment, in everything, every space.
And I didn't mean that in a bad way.
No, trust me. I
just
didn't take
have
it that way.
the entertainer that lives in you.
Yes.
All the time.
Well, and it's like there's a gift and an impairment to all of these things, right? Like I can look back and I go, thank God that was my experience, because I think it's the reason why it forged my gift.
Yes.
I just, in my 30s now, in my maturity, and after, quite honestly, like a whole hell of a lot of work, I have learned that this gift, the purpose of it now for the rest of my life, can be to connect with people rather than to hide
from people. That's so cool.
That's so even true. Though I discovered it in my hiding.
You have such an interesting story, because I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even write that down. Like your whole experience in LA, which obviously this can be edited and we don't have to include any of it.
No, it's fine.
But your whole manager thing is crazy.
Well, going along with what I was saying, when I moved out to LA and this intention of acting and music, I got that manager right away. But I also was just so desperate, because again, like my ability to really act from a place of true security was gone. I was always looking for people to validate me. And then that's how I got into this LA situation. I met someone who, long story short, was a con artist. And really,
this is the craziest story of a manager.
It would take
manager gone wrong.
A whole other podcast episode, but for basically, 3 years of my life started slow, kind of emotionally, groomed me in this way of really pumping my tires, like really making me feel like they saw me, they got me, they were the only person who believed in me. You have this special gift here and no one else gets it. Your parents, would tell me lies and lies and lies about, told me, oh, your mom told me she doesn't actually think you're very good, or your friends are actually all jealous of you, your boyfriend's probably cheating on you, like all of this stuff.
And that's like the classic grooming.
Yeah.
They
slow.
Yeah. Take
little pieces
turning
at a
you
time.
against the people that actually love you.
But convinced me, I love you. I see you. I've got your back.
Yeah.
And you can trust me even though you don't trust yourself.
Yeah.
And over a span of about 3 years, I lost most of my friendships. Really kind of disconnected from my family, because I couldn't keep up with all the lies I was telling them, with everything that this person was, all the work that they were having me do and everything like that. I just felt like I couldn't be honest with them. And then I also had all these lies swirling around in my mind, thinking that they didn't believe in me in the first place. But I lost.
And you're how many miles away from your family?
Oh, yeah, across the country.
Yeah.
Anyways, I ended up losing an incredible amount of money, but also just my spirit was broken.
Yeah.
And
this woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
She basically would ask you to pay for various things.
yeah, I mean, just a true con artist.
Yeah.
Now looking back at that, I go, of course it was me. Because I kind of always had this energy of like, who's going to believe in me?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to finally see me? And
I feel like every artist feels that. I
Right?
relate to that. Yeah. If I didn't have my mom and dad
ugh,
saying, we think you're good, or
Ugh.
like being willing to listen to a song every now and then, it's like, when you're out here, like in Nashville even, it's like,
you really
you
have to
need
have
validation
Well,
sometimes.
but you really have to have a strong sense of self. Like
Yeah.
it really does have to be sourced
Yeah.
from.
Yes, it does. But I also think like young artists, you need you need reinforcement.
Totally.
You need somebody to reinforce that when you're getting told no every day,
Yeah.
or no one's responding to you, which is still something I go through daily. It's like if I get one person who texts me back or
Totally.
says something,
Totally. Community, good people in your life
you still need that.
who
I feel
hold
like
the vision for you
Yeah.
when you don't know it.
yes,
I was so hungry for somebody to tell me, you're good,
yeah,
you're going to be okay, and all of the things that you've wanted forever, I'm going to make happen for you.
yeah,
And I just, I grabbed hold.
totally.
And then, ended up calling my dad one day after I mean, my physical, my mental, my spiritual, like everything started to really, really deteriorate. And I was in a really, really bad place. And finally just kind of had this like parting of the clouds. And it was like, I was like, God, what do I do? And I was like, I think I have to call my dad. I ended up calling my dad, and then he got a lawyer. And fast forward that I needed to leave LA.
So they were kind of in the dark.
I was in the middle of. They were in the dark.
They were totally in the dark.
I had
okay.
I had hidden so much. And,
Yeah. That just
yeah.
gave me goosebumps. Like that whole thing. You've been through so much.
It was, but you know what's sad? So many people have that story. So many people, I feel
Yeah.
like, know that.
I mean, I feel like we
intimately.
all just watched that. Like the TikTok stars who were the dancers.
Oh yeah,
whose
yeah.
family, they're like having it out on Instagram about.
It felt like I was in a cult. I was just
And that's
I was
what
the
this
only
was
member.
about. Yeah, you were the only member of the cult.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and there was a lot to kind of like unpack after that. But I ended up moving back to Nashville and moved in with Nat, and then that's
And that was 2014.
2016.
16. Okay. You and Natalie, our other good friend.
Yeah.
You were in a house together.
I moved in with her.
Yeah.
8 months later,
right.
moved into the townhome, and you moved in.
I think
The
I
three of
text
us.
you and I'm like, I need a place to live again.
Yeah, and we really lived it up.
We lived it up.
Kind of doing the mid-20s in
Yeah.
Nashville thing. I mean,
We
the three
were-
of us, we had a ball.
We had a ball.
We had a
But
ball.
We were like not that bad.
No, it wasn't. Honestly, we laughed so much.
Yeah.
I needed that period of time.
Yeah, that was so fun.
to just feel like I had two close friends.
my
I was
God.
like,
It was the best.
it was like a snuggie on my soul.
I know. It was the best.
Remember snuggies? Anyways,
It was like the best thing. And then we were all like, one day, it was like,
it was time to move.
we
on.
got to move on.
Yeah. But yeah, so towards the tail end of us being roommates, I met Katie, who is now my business partner and one of my closest friends. Somehow after like a few years of being here, I started taking acting classes, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember I love this so much. Oh my gosh, I'm good at this.
Yeah.
I had forgotten. So kind of, through a string of people that I met at that acting studio, I got in contact with Katie. She had seen a short film that I wrote and directed, like my first one. I was just kind of trying.
Yeah.
And she was borrowing equipment from the guy who was the DP for that short film.
Okay.
And he was like, let me show you the short film I just did. And she was like, who's that? And he was like, oh, it's Sarah Zanotti. And she was like, I want her number. I'm casting. She was making a pitching reel for a feature that she wanted to make. So she cast me in that without meeting me. And I showed up on set that day. And it was like she didn't even have to really give me direction. I knew what she was wanting from me as an actor before she even had to say it. We just, from the get-go had this really awesome collaboration.
Yeah.
And then she was like, do you write? And I was like, kind of.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting together. We wrote our first script on like page 37 because I'm a psycho. I was like, we should have a production. Like, we should make this movie. And she was like, okay. And I was like, we should probably have a production company to do that. Page 37 of my first feature script. And I'm like, we should really do this.
Yeah.
But there's a beauty in not knowing what you don't know.
Yeah.
And Katie had spent years in the studio system making movies. She went to film school. She's brilliant. And she's a director, writer. And I think just...
It's sort of the perfect...
It was the perfect
marriage,
mix, because I didn't know what I didn't know. And she has just this huge skill set.
Yeah.
And she was like, I mean, all right. Okay. So... we finished the script, we started the production company, and we started filming that movie 6 or 8 weeks later.
You wrote it?
We wrote
directed it together?
She directed. We both produced it.
And
I was the lead actor.
Yeah.
We cast it, everything. We raised some money for it, used a little bit of our own. I mean, we made this movie for like nothing, borrowed equipment, asked for favors, and had the best time. And then while we were in pre-production for that movie, we wrote a second movie called Faye. I was like, I want to be in a movie, but I want to be the only person in the movie. She's like, that's not narcissistic. But we wrote a one-woman horror feature film. And then that movie we ended up getting distribution for. And then because Faye was the first ever horror feature starring one actress in the world. It's the first of its kind. I think it just had a marketing thing about it. 5 people made it. We made it on iPhones. It was so scrappy and indie.
Yeah.
That we just
and now
it's on Amazon Prime.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
That's insane. When we were living together, you were so into horror. And like you were like one day I remember I was in the living room and you're like, I just love the mind of like psychopaths.
Yeah.
And you told me, you were like telling me how psychopaths are different from sociopaths, and you knew so much about this stuff that like I would go to bed and I would
be a little scared.
Is she gonna come in here and like
well
take my life? Honestly, I'm not even kidding.
No, I can see that. I was a little I think I was
obsessed with thrillers, obsessed with serial killers. I'm like, oh my God, this is my roommate.
But nothing ever happened.
Nothing ever happened.
You're welcome.
Live to tell the tale.
When I moved to LA.
I want to talk about your song Sobering. So Sarah released a single called Sobering that came out a couple months ago, right?
Sobering came out end of last year, and then Different Kind of Alone just came out.
Now you're 2 years sober.
Almost 2.5. 2.5. I decided to get sober, but sober in all of the ways. I think I had lived majority of my life kind of oscillating between these two extremes. Mm-hmm. One was the super tight grip, control, overthink, try and figure it out.
Yeah.
What can I do? What didn't I do? How can I plan for it? Anxious.
Yeah.
Going back through every social interaction I'd ever had and sifting through it, trying to figure out where I must have gone wrong so then I can change the behavior, punish myself into not doing that in the future. Like, it was just this constant, I felt like I had myself in a chokehold.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I knew how to do to relieve the pressure of trying so damn hard all the time was to swing in the complete opposite direction. So, if I wasn't, being in my eating disorder, restricting, and then full blown binge.
Right.
Or think so hard. Okay, now I'm going to have 4 margaritas and just not think at all.
Yeah.
Drinking was just one thing that I feel like I could use in that sort of like F it other side of the extreme,
escape.
Right?
Yeah.
The morning that I woke up and I had drank the night before just at my house, and it was the same amount of alcohol that I had kind of gotten accustomed to drinking regularly.
Yeah.
I didn't drink so much more than I was used to.
Yeah.
But for some reason that night I got really sick. Like, I got ill. And I woke up the next morning.
Like
throwing up.
Whole
thing. And I woke up the next morning and
I shouldn't say that.
I felt so embarrassed.
Yeah.
And And not because I had been out on the town at a bar and a bunch of people had seen me. No, I was at my house. Mm-hmm. But I felt so much shame and embarrassment. I had this very clear moment, like you were talking about earlier, where you just know, you have a knowing. Mm-hmm. And I swear it was like God was like, the person that you want to be in this life, the woman that you see yourself becoming, she can't take alcohol with her. Like, this ends today. And I just knew it. And I wasn't a raging alcoholic.
No.
I wasn't even chemically dependent upon alcohol. There was something in my soul that was like, I want to know what life is like if I am actually here, because it's got to be more than just trying to survive it.
And so that's what the song is about.
Sobering was like, I sat down at the piano, and the first verse terrified me because I just started listing off all of these moments in my life that when I thought about them, it was sobering to think about, right? And think about actually literally when somebody says, oh, that sobered me up, it is reality.
So, and you don't talk about whichever you're comfortable, but because you were not, like, when we lived together, we had fun, and we definitely, like, made some questionable choices sometimes, but for the most part, it was like us being silly and, like, forcing our Uber driver to take us, like, through McDonald's drive-through at like 2 a.m. like drunk. It was once in a while, and I think we both related to waiting till 5 o'clock to drink.
Totally.
Like, I
Watching
definitely got to that point of, like, is it finally 5? And we kind of all enjoyed that. I don't even feel like I would consider you, like, a high-functioning alcoholic. Like, I never saw what you felt, I guess, in that way. Like, I didn't consider you having an alcohol problem. But, like, what were the things, if you don't mind sharing?
I mean, I don't identify with ever have being like an alcoholic.
Okay.
But I would say that, you know, we kind of lost touch for a few years, starting in 2020, and the pandemic definitely exacerbated the drinking for me.
Oh, okay.
And because you're at home all the time, and the last place I wanted to be was with myself. I did not like being still. I didn't like stillness. And the voices and the control and the OCD and the eating stuff, it just got really loud when I had nothing else to do. And I would drive, you know, my roommate and I would drive down to Frugal McDougal and, like, dolly out boxes of alcohol.
Wow.
And I just got into a routine of just drinking way more than I ever had before. But I mean, that song also, I was remembering moments in my life that were not normal drinking moments. We're not like, oh, this is fun, like I'm having an Uber driver take me through McDonald's. Like, I've woken up face down in a ditch. I probably could have died. I've woken up with throw up all in my hair, and I was sleeping on my back. Like,
so the story of the ditch, I actually never knew. I feel like with people who eventually give up drinking, whether an alcoholic or not, there are these little moments, not little, they're big moments, but they happen like once a year, once every 5 years, but it always comes back to these, like, oh, maybe that
was the thing.
Like a sign that
I had a boyfriend too. I had a long-term boyfriend in high school and in college who I remember him being like, you should stop drinking. Like, you become a different person when you drink.
See, I never...
And all of this, like, all of my suppressed emotion, I would cry, I'd get really angry, or I would, you know.
I can definitely, like, I related to the waiting till 5 o'clock and drinking alone, which is my favorite thing to do. Like, and I'm a weirdly, like, controlled drinker. Like, I'll have one drink, I literally will measure it, and that's all I have. But I think needing it every night, depending on it, is still an issue. I can start fights with people when I'm drinking, even if I have one glass of wine. For whatever reason, it'll go from everything's fine to, like, I pick a fight, and I don't really even recognize it. My mom is usually the one to, like, point it out after the fact, and then I've started to pick up on it. As you know, a lot of people in my family are sober and have been for a long time. So I'm sensitive to the topic, and I feel better. I'm sleeping better now that I'm not drinking right now, but I don't know if it's going to be a permanent thing. But anyway.
I was drunk, I was fun, I can talk to anyone.
So what is your other song, Different Kind of Alone?
Different Kind of Alone. One thing that I experienced in social situations, not drinking, you become very aware of, first of all, how you feel in social situations when you're not, numbing it. And then when I was sober, it was like, oh gosh, I feel wildly uncomfortable.
I wanted to ask you about being sober now. Like,
Yeah.
do you like to go out? Are you comfortable around drinkers?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I mean, again, I was, I never identified with being an alcoholic. I have no problem being around alcohol now. I didn't go out a lot or go to bars a lot in the beginning because the temptation to just sort of, slip back into old habits was definitely very real. And it took me, honestly, it was just the social engagement part that took me a really long time to feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
But I went to go hang out with this group of people that I felt like I was just always trying to fit in with. Mm-hmm. And it became very apparent to me in that moment. I was like, I don't want to be here. I feel really uncomfortable. Oh, like all these people I've been trying to like make a friendship with, friendship isn't really being offered to me. Like there's no true connection here.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I think I'm just going to leave.
Yeah.
Something that's happened in sobriety has been the authority has returned to me in my own life. And I'm like, oh, I can just leave. Oh, actually, I think I'd rather be at home right now than be surrounded by a bunch of people and feel incredibly alone.
Yeah.
I'd rather actually just be alone.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing that I realized was that the first person who ever abandoned me was me. And so Different Kind of Alone is like, I've known what being alone feels like for a long time, but now it's different because I haven't left. Like there's this sense of coming home to myself.
Yeah.
That now when I choose to be out in the world, trust me, if I'm at a party now these days, it's because I want to be there.
Yeah.
It's because I chose to be there, not because I felt like I had to. That feeling of being self-conscious has really just dropped because, again, my security, my sense of my identity is not riding or dying on whether or not people like me anymore. It's really, I know that I'll be okay no matter what. I feel equipped now to make choices that, again, are not trying to assemble this very frail sense of identity. I've already got one.
The podcast is in my 30s, but I feel like that's kind of your 30s is getting away from your 20s, which was so codependent and you need this validation from everybody else. I feel like your 30s is settling into yourself.
When I've talked with women who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and they go, yeah, you just start to really be comfortable in your skin.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get that.
We have a lot to cover. We're like covering our whole...
We really are. I'm so sorry.
The
You've
song.
asked me one question and I have taken an hour and a half to not even answer it.
What was the question
You
I asked
asked
you?
me how I got that, how I booked the Lifetime movie. And I have quite literally taken you through a step-by-step process of like
Childhood trauma.
My early disconnect from my feelings, shame, religion,
OCD. I went with you.
sobriety.
We're like,
Because
we're just on a
there's
journey.
just no simple way to answer some of these questions. I'm like, let me give you the full story.
What has your experience been with, we were talking earlier about streaming and like all the numbers now, like everything is DIY and like it's like you have to
I don't know what I'm doing.
have a viral moment.
I don't know what I'm doing. Spotify doesn't make sense to me. All of it. I'm having a little fun with it, like with promo videos just on my Instagram of like doing some sketch comedy and stuff. Yeah. But I don't, the streaming, the likes, I think the main thing that I have to keep on pulling myself back to is I can get really discouraged by not like feeling like nobody cares.
Yeah.
When I don't see engagement or I don't get X amount of likes on something or I don't have very many streams. And the other day I was like, but Sarah, what do you actually value here? Because I think it's really easy to become distracted by the engagement part
Yeah.
and forget why you created something in the first place.
It's so hard.
Yeah. And to remind myself, am I doing this for the perception of being successful, or am I doing this because I actually have something that I feel like is valuable to say?
Yeah.
And now is it just a matter of finding a strategy to communicate it? I want people to hear this music.
Yeah.
But it can't be about my ego or the perception of me doing well. I want it to be heard because I really feel like it's important.
And I think that's really, it's so hard to remember. The only way you can go on as an artist is to like separate the success and the numbers and the results from why you started. And I will never forget writing this one song when I was a kid, like not a kid, I was like 18, 19, whatever. And writing the song, I remember feeling this like insane peace after I wrote it. And it was this kind of spiritual thing for me. And I always think about that moment because you lose that understanding because you get wrapped up in, I don't have this many Instagram followers. And like, what is the point of this? I keep releasing songs and nobody cares. And by the way, any stat that you achieve ends up not being enough. Like, you could like get millions of streams and labels still don't want you. It's never enough. And so it's like it takes work and practice to remember to separate, you know, the creative, you know, piece that you feel from just being creative and like the gift that is.
Yeah.
From the numbers and all of that. You have to find a way to do it. I mean, I get messed up with it all the time.
And I think sometimes I find myself discouraged because I start to sway into this. I start to feel the embarrassment of people maybe not paying attention or not getting a certain amount of streams or likes. But I would be lying to say that I don't want people to hear it because I do. Yeah. Like I actually really, really do.
Yeah. Well, I like that we're talking about why you wrote these songs because that's back to the why.
Yeah.
And you have a whole EP coming, right?
Yeah. So there are 3 more songs. Oh, I don't know how to like package the rest of the EP, if I'm just going to release now the whole EP with the rest of the 3 songs, or if I want to do singles. Like, I think I'm just trying to take it one step at a time and intuitively. But
so go check out her songs that are out.
The first one is called Sobering, and the second one is Different Kind of Alone. And also I'm making funny promotional like sketch comedy videos on my Instagram. I think I'm going to keep it going too. It's
I love it.
Called like the Front Door series, or Shut the Front Door, where somebody shows up to my door and they're just like cheeky and sketch comedy.
And she was charging her neighbors.
The premise of the first video was that I was like starting to put invoices on my neighbors' doors because I sing my songs loudly in my house every day. And I'm like, well, they're getting basically a free concert every day and they should pay for that.
God, that was funny. So that brings us to
acting stuff.
The question
the first question.
The first question I asked.
How'd I get in the Lifetime movie? Okay. So Katie and I have a production company called As If Productions, and we have been making our own feature films for the last 5 years, like basically since 2020. We've made 5 features, and we shot a pilot.
Distributed on Amazon.
Two of those movies are distributed, Faye and The Unraveling. I have not had an acting agent this whole time because we've just been doing our own thing. And when I went out to LA for the month of August just to take acting classes and change up my environment, my friend who I was staying with, she was like, hey, just got off the phone with somebody and they're, did you know that there's going to be a Lifetime movie shooting in Nashville? And I said, no. And she was like, you should put yourself on tape for it. And I was like, oh, okay. And just like submit myself. And she was like, yeah. So I auditioned and just submitted my audition to Actors Access, and I ended up booking it.
That's insane to me that you did, like, that was just you sending off, no agent.
Because you can self-submit to things on Actors Access.
Okay.
It's just, you usually have a better chance if you have an agent who's representing you. But I ended up booking it, which was so fun, and I didn't know how I would be on a set that wasn't my own, and it was actually a really great experience to have, to see how I've grown when it comes to control, because when I'm making my own movies, I have a lot of control.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna show up.
Yeah.
I'm not business partners with the director.
Yeah.
I didn't write the script. I have to fully surrender to this being out of my control, and I'm just gonna serve the part of the machine that I serve. And
that's really topical for some things going on in the news right now. But yeah, I mean,
next up, politics. No, but yeah, so I had a blast. It's called Murder in Nashville. It's, you know, on all those places we said, Hulu, yep. Prime, and Lifetime, and it was just really fun. And I got to, you know, a lot of the movies that I make with As If Productions and that I write, like, you know, psychological thrillers and horrors. And this one was also a thriller. Lifetime is all about their like lead woman in a thriller, but it wasn't maybe as dark as some of the stuff that that I've written. But it was just really fun to work with new people and to show up and act.
And it was so cool to see you on, like, I turn on Hulu and there you are. Like, it was, I'm super proud of you, because I feel like when we moved out from the place and we kind of lost touch for like
a couple years.
Yeah. It was like that moment where we both were just like really wanting these things to happen in our lives and careers, and like, you're making it happen and you're freaking doing it. Like, you're doing it.
Isn't it?
It's so cool.
Isn't it cool? Like, if I shift the perspective, there's always so much that I wanted to do. And I was so afraid that, you know, you kind of feel like you're on this time crunch, or like you've got to,
or you're running out of time
now. And you're running out of time. And now I'm like, oh, you're saying that for the rest of my life, I get to be more, like I get to continue to create and to be open to these opportunities. And I think that is, you know, especially for women, that's something that the world is shifting into, where, I mean, look at Demi Moore.
Oh my
this
God.
year. She's, you know,
her
she's
first,
right. But like, she's a woman in her 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
And, you know, having these massive acting roles come to her, like, the best is yet to come. And I'm really grateful that that I've stepped into the best artistic, like, I feel like I'm stepping into the best artistic years of my life, because I'm actually I'm healthier than I was, you know. I'm so glad it I nothing ever really popped off for me when I was younger, because I definitely don't think that I had the infrastructure to handle it.
Yeah, it's funny, as a woman, you kind of, especially in music too, you feel like, I have a window, and oh my God, it hasn't happened yet. Seeing these women like Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman, I mean, they like made these movies and shows happen. I think Dax Shepard or somebody thanked Reese Witherspoon for the fact that his wife can have a job for the rest of her life. Like, seeing, as someone who's 30 something, seeing a woman in her 40s and 50s and 60s having these roles,
right,
where they're in every big movie. Like, it's really, it's inspiring to me, and it like makes me hopeful. Growing up, all we ever heard was your 30s is like, that's it. You know what I mean?
I just feel like too, life just gets more interesting the older I get, and the more I get to know myself, the more I get to know other people, the deeper my faith becomes, the deeper my just awareness of even knowing that there's so much I don't know, and there's so much to explore there. So I feel like life just keeps getting richer, and why wouldn't then the stories get richer as you get older? And why aren't we putting those things on film? Why aren't we writing those things in songs, you know?
And I think that's when you see like a missing hole in the market or whatever, it's like, don't run away from that. Like, go toward that thing that's not being said, or like people aren't doing, even if everyone thinks you're wild for like being as like, so many people want me to like not say my age. That's always been a thing. Like, oh God, don't like say you're just shave off 5 years. Like, I'm never gonna do that ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to my good friend, and I said sometimes I get a little scared that I'm getting too old.
Yeah.
For
That's my biggest fear.
For my calling, for
Yeah.
my dream. And she looked at me, I'll never forget this, and I love this so much. She said, Sarah, how could you, at this stage in your life, when you're the most you've ever been, you're the most healed you've ever been, you're the most intentional you've ever been, and the most present you've ever been, how could you think that your calling is now running out of time when age has been so good to you?
Yeah.
She's like, age has been so good to you. If you look back and you go, age is against me. No, it's really not. It's always been for you.
Yeah.
And I love that so much. And it made me feel like, oh my gosh, I'm only getting better.
Yeah. 100%.
This is only getting deeper. This is only getting more rich.
It's just keeping your mind right and reminding yourself that that's the way to think.
There are a lot of
not
lies.
The other way.
There are a lot of lies that,
Yeah.
and a lot of stories that I think that we kind of, it's easy to get trapped into. But going back to like that feeling of peace, if anything in you, if anything makes you feel less, it's probably not true.
Yeah, you've always said that. I feel like you and Nat, like when we were living together, it was always, you would remind me like of those things. Like if it doesn't feel good, it's not true.
If it doesn't give you peace, it's probably not true.
Yeah. Speaking of Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman, women that inspire us, I want to finish every podcast by shouting out female artists, could be actors, musicians, anyone that you're like into that might not be as well known.
I mean, I'll shout out my business partner, Katie
Love
Amond. She's a brilliant director, writer, editor. So blessed to make movies with her. And then I would say she's decently well known right now, but Megan Park just directed My Old Ass with Aubrey Plaza and Maisie Stella, Nashville girl. And Megan has, like, from the outside, I mean, she's been an actor for a while, but man, that movie was so good.
Yeah.
It
I
was
haven't watched
so
it yet.
good. And she's really getting her, like,
flowers.
I think she's on the, she's the next Greta Gerwig. I love a female director in the industry who's just making really powerful work. And speaking of meaningful movies, that movie really, I cried. It was everything a good indie film should be. And funny story, back when I lived in LA and I taught bar method, I used to teach her bar method.
That's crazy to me.
And she was always so kind and nice. Aww. So we love a really kind human being who's just making some phenomenal work. Yeah, I really love her. I mean, it's like artists in this town, seriously, I also love the genre bending that you're doing. I love doing that in film as well. Yeah. There's just so many facets. And I think you posted something last night about, you're like, maybe I don't have to choose a genre. And I love that.
That's another thing that I've tried to fix about myself. And every time I try to fix it, like I have to tailor it to just fit in country because that's what everyone's telling me. And I'm like, okay, maybe that'll work. Every time I try to fix myself and I ignore my instinct, it's like it prevents me from doing the thing I want to do. And it makes it really painful. So I'm just like trying to, honestly, it feels like kind of backing away from the control and the OCD. Like it's an exercise and being like, it's okay that it's not perfectly fitting. Maybe one day that'll be like the thing I'm known for. Not a bad thing. It's just that's who I am. I've tried to fix myself and it's the most painful thing. So it's like I'm just going to be what feels natural.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's like almost in dating sometimes too, why we're attracted to things that are kind of like we associate love with it having to be hard, or we associate what we're supposed to be doing with it having to be like we have to change ourselves and morph ourselves in a certain way. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I've actually kind of had the thing the whole time. Yeah. It's just been my resistance to it. Yeah. That, you know, somewhere along the way, the wires got crossed. Yeah. And I thought what was meaningful had to be torturous. Yeah. And
I think I am getting more comfortable with like, okay, like the outside world isn't giving me the validation totally that I need, want. But let me like practice this. Let me like do this exercise in I'm not in control of it all. I'm going to put this song out. I know it's not country. Maybe it'll confuse people. Maybe it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay that I'm not doing it perfectly. I think it's more of an exercise in just being.
And also, it's like, if the direction is based on what's inspiring to me. Yeah. Or what do I feel like obligated to do? Yeah. And I think even from a listener standpoint, people can always feel when somebody was inspired to do something versus when they just did it because they felt like they had to. Yeah. Or they were trying to fit somewhere. Yeah. So I'm all for it. You've always had that like little Justin Timberlake, little R&B in you.
He's my guy.
You have it.
Yeah.
It's great. You. So I'm excited for you too.
Thanks, Beeb. I'm excited for you. I'm going to end with two people also that I'm loving. Okay, so there's this country artist named Emily Ann Roberts. She has this song called Easy Does It. She's like blowing up in my mind. I think she is. It's called Easy Does It. She's super country and like, I think she's indie. She's opening for Blake Shelton though. She's like, the song is amazing. It's a great song. And then I was at Soho House the other night on Valentine's Day with Tooch. And there was this girl singing. Her name is Summer Joy. And it was the most moving vocalist I've heard in a long time.
No way.
And
Summer Joy?
Summer Joy. Kind of like Adele vibes. I just stood there and watched her because it was that moving. And I hear so much music all the time, but it was like, whoa, there's something about this girl.
When something pierces through all the noise, because this industry is so saturated. Yeah. That's special. Okay, well, Emily Roberts, you said?
Emily Ann Roberts.
Emily Ann Roberts
I'm saying
and
that right.
Summer Joy.
And Summer Joy, yeah.
Right.
We're going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
This has been lovely. Thank you for your time, and not only your time, but your patience.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, this just feels like a normal day on set.
Really?
Yeah. Well, there's so many like lighting setups. I mean, so much of set is just like sitting and waiting.
Oh, okay, good. So
it's like a baseball game.
Not
like
a total
2 minutes
hot mess.
of actual air, like when the ball's in play.
Totally. Okay, good. I have some work to do, but anyway.
Yeah, I have so many things to get to. It's crazy.
No, I mean with like learning how to make this work.
Okay.
I'm really busy.
You're like,
I actually have to go.
I can't stay here.
No, I didn't.
I'm like, yeah, me neither. I have so much to do. It's crazy.
No, I meant like I have a lot to learn.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. Everybody go watch Murder in Nashville on Lifetime.
Or The Unraveling.
And
Faye.
Oh, there it goes. Okay, so we're signing off. We got it all. We got it all.
We're going to be fine.
Thank you, Sarah, for being on here. We still have our wide angle.
Yes.
This camera just died. But thanks for coming on.
Love you, babe.
We're in our 30s still.
We are in our 30s.
Yeah.
Can't wait for the In Our 40s podcast.
Yeah, I'm not ready.
Okay.
Love you.
In my 30s.
Love you. Thanks